put it on pole for right now. Little mic check, mic check. Good to go. Alright, well, welcome in. We have finally made it to Laguna Seca, as we got about 15 minutes left in practice. Winter has put the time in. I know this morning he was pushing a lot of practice. I was giving him a little bit of pointers, and it seems to be so far that those have at least shown a little bit of fruit so far. We'll see if luck plays on his side. He's got some green on that car, but it is not St. Patrick's Day, so I don't know what good it'll do. But Winter, so far, running the top times. Top times of this car at this track are in the 21s, but with the conditions that we have and traffic, we may not see anything below low 24s, high 23s. As we are slowly inching our way towards qualifying here at the legendary Laguna Seca in Monterey, California. 11 turns, a couple very technical sections such as the uphill kink of 6, the downhill corkscrew of 8 and 8-2. Call it 8A, but it's a secondary 8. And then a not so technical but very crucial section of Rainy Curve, comprising turns 9 and then heading down towards turn 10. Then the crucial turn 11 that Winter and Wagner and Johnston are coming up to right now. It is a right at 90-degree left-hand turn that is extremely crucial to get good exit speed out of, because if you don't get that good exit speed, you will be at an extreme disadvantage in terms of speed down the pit straight into the kink of 1 and to the Andretti hairpin as Winter is coming out of right now. Then we head towards turn 3, another nearly 90-degree right-hander, float the car wide, get a little bit of the curve on the inside, float it out to the outside curb, and then we come through turn 4, which is the same thing, just continuing on, a little bit more open, and then blasting towards turn 5. An awkward long left-hander. It's slightly acute, not necessarily an obtuse turn like the kink, but this kink here, one of the trickiest, most technical corners in the entire circuit. There is a sausage curve on the inside, but all of the grip is as close to that apex as you can get. Why do the drivers have a hard time hitting that apex? For one, you can't see it. You would expect the drivers to be able to see that sausage curve on that apex very easily, but no, there is a little bit of a dip at the top of the hill and you can't see that curve, so you have to turn in blind and hope that you hit it. One thing that you will start to see is which drivers have practiced, which drivers have not, because there is not much for reference point, and the only way that you're going to be able to hit that time and time again is if you have put in the repetitious effort to make that muscle memory. If it's not muscle memory, then you will have a hard time nailing that turn in at the kink. As Norman is wide, currently riding on board with your practice pole sitter of Winter. As I will try to get the camera changed, if it will stay with it, so we have a better camera for the Oh, let's see if it'll update to the better camera. There it goes. So we have this nice open shot of the corkscrew downhill. As we come down through Rainy Curve, you can really see the elevation when we look at it from that angle. And then turn 10. Curb usage is extremely crucial here at Watkins Glen. Or not Watkins Glen, why am I saying Watkins Glen? We were there a couple weeks ago. Laguna Seca. I've got fond memories of the blue walls, I guess. But here at Laguna Seca, GT2s, a higher turnout in GT2s than we had previous, but there are still a ton of GT4s out there. The front-running GT4 being Bird. Bird, a driver showing with a lot more pace than he had in the previous season prior when we were driving Maseratis. He was in the GT2 in that class here, or in that series, here in this series, they flop. So the drivers that were in GT2s are now in GT4s. The drivers that were in GT4s are now in GT2s. As Winter gets fully airborne over the kink, there is no grip when your tires are in the air. We will go onward with Elizondo, get a little bit of action from the GT4 class. Once again, thank you for tuning in. If you are tuning into the stream, greatly appreciate your viewership. And please consider, if you have Amazon Prime, if you would consider using your Twitch Prime subscription. It removes all ads for you and helps out the streams a lot. Elizondo goes deep into the Andretti hairpin, a little bit deeper than you would want to, but a little bit more time for practice before we get to qualifying. Qualifying tonight will be as usual with the GT2, GT4 series. It is a split qualifier, 10 minutes for each class. The GT2s, the faster cars, go first. They get 10 minutes of track to themselves. The GT4s go second, with a, albeit much more prime track, as it will already have the rubber down and a little bit of temperature from the 10 minutes prior. And then something you will see right at the end of the GT2 qualifying, right when that timer hits 10, the GT2s need to have started their final lap before the timer hits 0, or 10 minutes in that case. If they have started their lap before the timer hits 10 minutes, they are able to finish that lap and it'll still be valid. If they start a lap before that lap, or before the timer, if they start a lap after the timer hits 10 minutes, they must abort the lap, as it would be outside of the qualifying time. Something you will notice as the clock runs to 10 minutes for the GT2s, the GT4s will start lining up at the exit of the pit lane at the very end of the pit lane speed limiter marker. It is a line on the ground. You will see the cars start to line up there as the drivers will start to get prime for the track position there. With such a large field in the GT4 class, they are going to be greatly fighting for track position. Track position is going to be a necessary resource in a scarce supply. A little bit of supply and demand, you will see they're going to wish there was a lot more track. They are going to wish that the track was a lot wider, and that is not just in terms of qualifying, that is in terms of the racing, because these 30 plus cars all have to fit on the track together. And there will be some door banging tonight, as there may be some disagreements of who deserves which part of the track. Riding on with Bird, the provisional P1 here in practice for the GT4s. Darnell now eclipsing Winter with a 24.4. Just a couple hundredths of a second, very close up there at the front, and Vasquez in the GT2 either strategically not showing the pace or not at the wheel just yet. Currently at the bottom of the board, not setting a time in this practice session, maybe trying to hide the pace a little bit, sandbag. Riding with Bird coming down through the corkscrew. Very tight downhill chicane known as the corkscrew here at Laguna Seca. It is probably the defining turn of this circuit and one of the most legendary sections of track in all of motorsport. Rivaled by the hairpin at Monaco, or really not sure what else. I would say maybe the skyline section at Mount Panorama. Down through the S's and into the elbow. Or maybe even the bus stop at Watkins Glen. Right at 4 minutes left in this practice session, Darnell eclipsing Winter in terms of lap time. Winter just ahead, Norman and Chase. Norman in a GT4. Something that we had usually seen with these classes is a split of around 10 seconds between GT2s and GT4s, but it seems the further we get into this season, it could be the drivers are getting more comfortable with the GT4s, but that gap is continually dropping. At Red Bull Ring, we saw a difference in pace of about 10 seconds between the classes. When we got to Watkins Glen, it was right around 9 seconds. When we got to Brands Hatch, it was right around 7 or 8 seconds. Now we are here at Laguna Seca, and it is right at 6.5 seconds. Would not be surprised if I see that drop below 6 seconds. The tracks get more technical, and the more technical these tracks get, the lower horsepower, more grip GT4s are starting to have a little bit of an advantage. Not being faster overall in terms of pace, as Darnell has a big save, full opposite lock counter steer to get that car held down, and that will warm those tires up to an uncomfortable level, and he will bring that car into the pits. Riding along with Winter, still chasing that little bit extra pace with Vasquez in tow now. Vasquez, I said, had not set a flying lap just yet. He has set a lap, 2 seconds off the pace nearly. As Winter comes through turn 11, Vasquez in tow. Vasquez far enough behind to not have a hindrance in pace, as I think Vasquez will use these last 2 laps that he will be afforded to set at least a decent lap time. These laps don't really have much of value in terms of the grand scheme. It's just practice, doesn't really mean anything, but it may be some warm-up for the drivers as they have maybe been practicing for the past week or so with this class and these cars, tuning their setups, and now it is time to show what you have learned. Winter looking to secure the first win of this series of his in the GT2 class. Darnell looking to get the clean sweep once more. Pole position and winning all 3 races like he did last week. If you remember, round 1 at Watkins Glen, put it on pole but was not able to finish in the front row one time at Watkins Glen. Came back at Brands Hatch and showed that he still did have what it took to be on top and took the clean sweep of the weekend. GT4, on the other hand, showing to be a very much more competitive series, as it seems to be that we have a different winner every time. Bird, a driver that has shown that he has the pace, bringing a lot of pace out of that GT4 compared to where he was running in the GT2 class. was not really able to get much in terms of the podium in GT2s, but when it comes to GT4s, he has been much more on top of it. Elizondo also showing the pace with Mikey as well. Drain, Lindbergh, Wagner, all drivers that are capable of top times. At least they showed that pace in the GT2 series. Could be a little bit different story throughout the length of this season in GT4s. As the timer comes down to 0, that will bring the end to practice. The drivers on laps are able to finish their laps. Winter, I believe, just trying to find those extra couple seconds, but do you run your good lap now, or do you wait before the session is over? Do you go ahead and waste your good throw, as they would say in sports, in baseball and such? Winter will come across the line. He's looking for a little bit extra time. Continuing on with the lap, so he may think that he has it. It would drop him into the low 24s. As he comes across the line, he did have it, taking 2/10 off of that time of Darnell. He's showing that he is ready to play, as almost a quarter of a second over his competitor Darnell. And as the rest of the field is coming through, car number 3 of Drain coming across the line next, with Miller also coming across, car number 731 of Viana coming through. And Great House, a newcomer tonight that we have not seen in this series. Wilson as well. And now, started with qualifying. It is a fast track. There's a little bit of rubber down, but it is not necessarily an optimal track just yet, as the GT2s are now rolling. Horner first to take the advantage in terms of track position, with Harris close in tow. As they head down the hill, tucking to the inside, not cutting across to the racing surface, staying on the pit lane loop as it spits you out at turn 3. And then coming through turn 3, Horner, as long as he stays valid on this lap and the next, will be the first to show us the race pace, set the time to beat, as the rest of the GT2 field will make their way through. I believe we may have a GT4 rolling. Not sure who that is. Car number 1 of Harrell. Harrell going early, trying to get that track advantage. They didn't even wait until the very end of the qualifying session for the GT2s. They are going to go ahead and take their spot on the track now. Even more GT2 or GT4s rolling up to secure their spot in pit lane. Horner with Harris still in tow, coming through turn 11 to set the, or to finish his out lap and get ready for the first flying lap of this session. Coming through the kink of 1 down into the Andretti hairpin, which is technically turn 2. A lot of people confuse it with turn 1. Very, very wide, missing the apex. Maybe the tires aren't warm enough yet. Then through turn 3, a touch of the apex on the inside, floating it out nice and wide to the curb on the outside. Doing the same for turn 4, just a touch of the curb on the inside, touch of the curb on the outside. Then down towards turn 5. Late brake, keep the car to the outside as you have a late apex, as Horner will slightly miss that apex, but still coming through. Still a clean lap, and then the most difficult corner on the track, the kink. It's not the most difficult to do, but it is the most difficult to do it right and keep it clean with a lot of speed. Horner will invalidate his lap and give Harris the track advantage as Harris comes through the corkscrew. Another very technical second of the track, very technical section of the track. What's up, Bush? Thank you for tuning in. As Harris goes wide, Harris also invalidates the lap. Car number 777. Lucky Vasquez will be the first to set the pace in this qualifying session. Coming through turn 11, as long as he can keep it clean for this corner, he will be setting the timed beat. As Vasquez comes across the line, what'll it be? A 25.7, not a very good time, as we will see the pole position laps down in the low 24s. But I know Vasquez, being the driver that he is, has that lap time in him. As our next drivers come across the line, McDonough running a 25.5 and Craters running a 25.6. Breakfast running a 25.8. And Van Wyck running in the 26s. Those lap times will come down as the session goes on. Darnell not setting a lap yet. Winter not setting a lap yet. Both of those drivers in the practice session showed 24-second laps in the 1 minute 24-second range, as we should be expecting those laps any moment now. Car number 915 of Horner along with Harris, as Horner, I believe, invalidates his lap. Nope, stays valid. As Horner goes for an overtake on Harris. I don't think Harris is going to be too happy with that, and Horner may have just invalidated his lap in doing so. Hindered Harris's lap, invalidated his own. Harris is the bottom of the timed scores now. Vasquez now takes a second out of his time, running a 24.5. And moves up into the provisional pole position. GT2's yet to leave the pit lane, or yet to set a time. Rowan, Darnell, Winter. Darnell comes across the line on an invalid lap, now on a valid lap. Halfway through the qualifying session, the longer you wait, the more risky it gets. Winter coming across, and Winter will be setting a flying lap. What will it be? 24.3. Winter up into provisional pole with 4 minutes and 30 seconds left in this qualifying session. Vasquez a 10th and a half behind. And now Winter has a little bit of traffic in front of him. That is Viana. Viana, a driver who is able to show some pace, but not one that we usually see up on the front row. Could it be a different story for Viana today? Winter pushing that car a little bit too hard, trying to find the extra pace, and ends up losing it. He will take that car back to the pits, and now he will have 2 more valid laps to get a time set. Car number 67 of Harris in P7. Car number 915 of Horner coming across the line. One more time to try and set a lap. Car number 87 of Rowan comes across up into P6. Car number 38 of McDonough next across the line. Stays third fastest. Car number 913 of Craters up into P1 at 24.1, beating Winter by almost 3/10 of a second. Winter now has some more work to do, as Craters is your provisional pole sitter. Now, nearly all of the GT3s have set a lap. Darnell up into P4, a driver that we have seen in the 24s, as he has now entered the 24 range, a 24.9. But a 24.9 not enough for the front row. It will have to be a low 24, or even at this point a 23 to take pole. And for some of the drivers out here, it would be a personal best. Under 3 minutes left in the qualifying session here for GT2. Craters pulling off to the side of the track, allowing the field to cycle through. I think he wants clean track on his own. That does cool the tires off a little bit, but may be worth the risk. Winter now through Rainy Curve, headed towards turn 10. Down the small straight by the pit entry towards turn 11, hard on the brakes. You'll see that car standing on its tippy toes as it comes straight at the camera there. And then We speed down the pit straight. What will it be for Winter? Will not improve on that lap. We'll have 2 more shots at it. 2 more times to try and get a faster lap. Very wide through the Andretti hairpin, missing those apexes a little bit. And then coming through turn 3, 2 tires on the outside curbing before you do the same into turn 4. And then to turn 5, nice and wide. Late brake, turn in late. Get a little bit of that curb, float the car very wide to the outside. Then the most difficult corner on the entire circuit, the fast flowing kink with the camber on the inside. Winter, he is still valid. He was on the very edge of the track limit. And then down into the corkscrew, pushing. He kicks the rear end of that car out a little bit. The rear does not want to slow down fast enough, and you use that little bit of over-rotation to get the car straightened up and pointed towards the exit of the corkscrew chicane. Down towards turn 11, Winter looks to be on a very fast lap here. I would not be surprised if this is a lap to take pole back. He is pushing, and as he comes across the line, it will not be enough for pole, but it takes a 10th out of the work. Just a third of the work less to do, as Winter now demoted to P3 as Vasquez goes just 1/100th of a second behind that of Craters. Vasquez now with 1 more shot to set the pole setting lap. Craters in the pits, satisfied with what he's done so far. Will it be enough? 10 seconds before our GT4s start rolling, and they are lined up and ready to go, inching towards the line. Lindbergh opting for the outside, saying, hey, there's no rules here. As the timer hits 10 minutes, they are flying out of the pit lane like a Le Mans start, as they all start fighting for that track position. The cars at the front will be at the advantage, but the GT2 qualifying is not over yet. Vasquez to finish his qualifying session. Harris across the line, staying P6, car number 915. Horner up into P6, demoting Harris down to P7. Car number 38 of McDonough next through the final corner. Very sideways on the exit, not going to be good for setting a faster lap for him. See if it will be enough to improve. Will not improve. Stays P4. Car number 333 of Winter does not improve across the line. Stays P3. Car number 777, a 23.9, jumping up into pole, taking it away from Jack Craters as long as no one else can beat that lap of Vasquez. The last one to do it would be car number 69 of Van Wyck, but not improving on his lap either. Vasquez, your pole sitter in GT2, with a last lap shootout for it. Craters maybe wished he stayed out 1 more lap to get a little bit of insurance there, but it was not enough. We have a little bit of tomfoolery at the exit of turn 5. Lindbergh first across the line with all of the clean air and open track ahead. Wagner in tow. These drivers, it is a toss-up, a complete coin flip on who will be the driver to set the GT4 pole position, as all of the drivers in this class show that they have the pace, they have the ability to put that car on the front row. And if there is any class to have a different winner in each of the 3 races, and it still may not even be the pole sitter, as Lindbergh gets snap oversteer coming through turn 4, will abandon the lap and will drop back in, losing that advantage of the clean air that he tried to get so much earlier. Now Wagner, the car in the lead of the GT4s, leading them across the track. Wagner will now be the next to set the pace in GT4. Coming down through the corkscrew. Let me get the camera changed a little bit here if possible before they start setting their flying laps. Seems that it does not want me to do that for right now, so we will continue on as Wagner comes through turn 11. Getting a poor exit. It looked like Harrell was going to be able to go around the outside of Wagner, but Harrell invalidating the lap. Wagner stays valid. The only car of this leading pack to set a flying lap. Wagner P1, Eggy P2, but Norman and Drain both run faster laps than Wagner and push him down. Mikey up into P2. The times very, very close. Drain up into P3, pushing Drain down one more spot, and as they come across the line, very, very close between these front few GT4s. Norman, your provisional pole sitter, and sitting back here for now, probably getting a little bit of help of slipstream down these straight sections. If you're too much faster than the drivers in front, then it may be a little bit detrimental. But if you are able to run a similar pace, then you may be able to get a little bit of slipstream help, pushing through the kink of 6, up through the small kink of 7 that you don't really even notice, into the hard braking zone of the corkscrews of turn 8, down the hill, through a rainy curve, as I believe that was Eggy going around. That was Eggy going around. Norman still provisional pole, but the next batch of drivers to set a lap coming across the line. Norman still sitting nice and pretty in that slipstream zone. Elizondo up into P1, dethroning Norman for now. Drain, Lindbergh both setting faster laps than Norman. Norman down to P4, down to P5 as Mikey also goes faster. And they are setting laps very similar in pace to each other. From P12, P1 in class, Elizondo all the way down to Eggy, less than 2 seconds for 12 positions. That is very close. Elizondo, now your provisional pole sitter, as we are just past the halfway point. Now Elizondo pulling to the side. It looked like as maybe he was going to leave some space for traffic to go by, but I think he is just going to continue on with that lap. Invalidating on the exit of the kink though, as I would really love to get a little bit better replay action here. I would love to get the other replay camera if possible. I don't know if it will let me though, but I will try. Wagner now coming across the line. Down in P6 in class, driver that we saw towards the front in the GT2 series. Elizondo still your pole sitter, as Bird goes P2 in GT4s. And with just over 3 minutes left, right around 3 laps left for some of these drivers, 2 for the others, it is now getting to crunch time. The times have been set by the majority of the field, all the field actually, and now you know what you need to do if you want to put that car on the front row or if you want to put it in the pole position. With an odd number of GT2s, the GT4, since we don't have necessarily a class split start, GT4 on pole will be by itself, and a staggered start and have an advantage over the rest of the field could be extremely crucial for closing off the attacking move down into the Andretti hairpin on the first lap. Elizondo still your pole sitter, but not going to set the fastest lap on this lap or another faster lap. Bird just 2/10 behind. Drain just right at 3/10 behind. Lindbergh right at 3/10 behind. Mikey at 4/10, Norman 5/10. It is just tenths and tenths and tenths between each time as they go down the order. Very, very close, and it could be anyone's race in either of the races. Drain now up into P1, knocking Elizondo down into P2. Mikey P3, Bird P4. These 4, 5, even 6 drivers in the front of the GT4 field are all capable of winning this race tonight, winning these races tonight, all capable of setting the pole position. As Drain is still your provisional pole sitter, as we have right at a minute and a half left, a minute 20 seconds left in this quali session. Will anyone beat Drain, or will Drain be the one to take advantage of the lone position at the very back of the GT2 grid? Drain goes deep into the corkscrew. It is an invalid lap, but he has time to get to the line to set another flying lap, buy himself some insurance, which with what we saw in the GT2 qualifying could be crucial for holding on to the pole position. He is going to be at the front of the field, but some of his competition, Elizondo just behind. Elizondo would be able to beat Drain. He would be able to see the time that Drain has set and know that if Drain is an invalid lap, then Elizondo has a chance. Mikey also coming across the line. Bird also coming across the line. These drivers will have enough time to react to Drain. If Drain goes invalid on this lap, it would give those drivers a little bit of incentive to push on this lap, as he would not be able to expand his lead. Elizondo goes wide, not going to help the lap very much, but it could still be on. He is on the limit as the timer runs down to 0. Drain, your provisional pole sitter, but will there be anyone left? Anyone to try and knock him down a peg, put him back into the rest of the GT4 field? As once again, the pole sitter in this class is on the front, or in the front on their own. Drain coming through the corkscrew. Will it be enough to buy him some time, buy him some insurance? He abandons the lap. It's done. Elizondo now knows that if this lap is 2/10 better, he will be on pole. Mikey invalidating his lap, will not be going for it here. Bird has been knocked down to P6, but also staying in the lap as they come across the line. Elizondo looking to improve. Elizondo does not improve, stays P2. Car number 45, Lindbergh, next across the line, takes P1, pole position for Lindbergh for now. As the rest of the field comes across the line, car number 1 of Harrell. Harrell up into pole position, takes it away from Lindbergh. It is not over until it's over, and as these drivers come across the line, Johnston next across the line looking to improve. Where will Johnston go? Johnston will not improve. Car number 914, Eggy, also not improve. Actually, Eggy up close to the front row. Where did Eggy end up? Eggy is in P6. Bird, a race winner from the last round at Brands Hatch, starting P7. Not going to be where he wanted to start. That is going to be very hard to gain the crucial points that he needs, because with 2 race wins to his name so far this season, he is in contention to be one of the names we talk about in terms of the championship in this season. Harrell, P1, his first pole position in GT4 this season. Will it be a little bit of a telltale sign to look out for him getting his first win of this season? Time will tell. We have 2 10-minute sprints tonight, followed by a 40-minute sprint. The qualifying order as they stand: Vasquez, your pole sitter and overall pole sitter, with a 23.9. Jack Craters, P2. Winter, P3. McDonough, P4. Darnell, P5, Horner, P6, Harris, P7, Rowan, P8, Breakfast, P9, Viana, P10, and Van Wyck, P11. In GT4, it was drain, or actually it was drain until the timer hit 0 when Lindbergh took the pole position, but only for a second, as Harrell was the last driver to take it away. Harrell setting the fastest lap in the GT4 field, a 1:30.6. And as they go down the order in GT4, just a couple tenths between the drivers as they go down the line. Harrell P1, Lindbergh P2, Drain P3, Elizondo P4, Mikey P5, Norman P6, Eggy P7, Bird P8, Greathouse P9. First time driver tonight, first time in the KTM series. Thank you for racing with us. Wagner P10, Vieira P11, Fernandez P12, Atwell P13, Johnston P14, Merkel P15, Wilson P16, also a newcomer, Miller P17, Ditto P18, Short P19, Morton P20, and Caligari P21. That is the order. That's how they'll start, but how will they finish? Only one way to find out. We will see when they get rolling, and then 10 minutes later, when we finish race 1, we will see how the field stacks up. Thank you for watching. Thank you for those in the YouTube chat. If there is anyone watching over there, yes, there is. Thank you for those watching on the YouTube side. Thank you for those tuning in on Twitch. It should be a good stream tonight. Should be some good racing. Good luck to all the drivers. And if you're driving tonight or just listening along, make sure you drink some water as I am doing now. The grid is definitely stacked, but as we go down the field, looking at Harrell, kind of hard to see, but he is on his own. He is set up to the outside, which could put him under attack from Lindbergh, who will be off to his left. Lindbergh will be in a prime position to take advantage, but with the acceleration of the GT2s, they should get out of the way fast enough that Harrell can drop down and block that move off. Get the door closed before it has an opportunity to open, one would say. And as we get the field ready to go, hopping on with Vasquez, your pole sitter. We will sit as he fires up his engine as we get fired up for the first time tonight. 20 seconds until we get rolling for the formation lap here in the KTM Cannonball Series Race 1 here tonight. It is a 7 p.m. start in the evening hours. The track will be cool and cooling, but not cool just yet. Give us some nice Monterey sunset as we are now rolling. So we got some flashing lights from the grid behind. Vasquez fires the RPMs up, drops the clutch, and we are now rolling as he is trying to get those rear tires warmed up. As we get ready to get started here, get the camera set up, and now you will start to see, if you are unfamiliar with sports car racing, we have different things that get put onto the cars, different things that the cars have. These GT2 series cars, they have a little bit more power, a little bit more aerodynamics than the GT4, but not as much aerodynamics as a GT3. They're faster down the straights, but they're not faster through the corners. The GT4s have less of both of those things, less power and less aero. They rely on a little bit more momentum style driving, more mechanical grip. One thing that these cars do not have is tire blankets, so they do not come off the line with warm tires. You will see them push through these corners a little bit, try to generate some temperature, because generating temperature generates air pressure. When you generate air pressure, you get a more solid tire, a more responsive tire. You get more grip out of that tire. And they will continue cycling through. Vasquez leading them to the kink. before we head up the hill towards the corkscrew. Craters just behind, getting a little bit of weaving there as we look into the California countryside. We're technically in a little bit of wine country here, as we hope this track gets all of their legal issues figured out with the people who decided to build houses in that California countryside and then complain about a racetrack being there. So, thankful for the Friends of Monterey for making sure that keeping the track alive is a priority, as they get the 2x2 call. They will assume their starting positions, as Vasquez will lead the field towards turn 11, will have the advantage on the left side of the track, as the first turns are two left-handers, the small kink of turn 1 before we get to the Andretti hairpin of turn 2. As Vasquez brings us to the line, we are creeping up the hill towards the start-finish line, where we are about to take green flag for the first time tonight in the TRC KTM Cannonball Series. And green, 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 we are racing as the field tries to find their crucial track position. Vasquez nice on the inside, but they're 4 or 5 wide behind, as Vasquez very nice, but they are 3 wide for P2. Winter getting the advantage, moving up into P2 just behind Vasquez. The rest of the field seems to be making it through pretty clean, I say so, and there's a massive pileup in the GT4 field. Elizondo looks to be the leading car. Viana, the GT2, caught up in that, as Elizondo now moves to the front of the field in GT4. Drain in tow just behind. The rest of the GT4 still trying to get themselves sorted out. Harrell, your pole sitter, Morton, Ditto, all of those drivers all out of shape. Harrell not having luck on his side this time, as Vasquez leads the GT2 field up the hill. We've got 3 GT2s off the track: Darnell, McDonough, and Harris. Darnell once again with the bad luck on his side. Vasquez now coming through turns 9, then 10, with a little bit of a gap on Winter. Winter and Vasquez looking to be a 2-horse fight up here for the lead. Horner has the ability to close that gap. Craters as well in GT4. Elizondo just behind this field, chasing them down towards turn 11. And the rest of the field just looking to cycle through, get their positions held, as we are looking at a move potentially behind. It looked like it was Norman going on Miller, and Norman did get that position away from Miller as they come through turns 3 and 4. Winter and Vasquez breaking away from the pack. Horner will try to chase them down, as Winter closing in very close to Vasquez. Vasquez set a good lap. Vasquez had the pole position in qualifying, but Winter looking to close this gap down as they head down towards the kink. That will be a crucial zone to either gaining or losing to the car ahead, as they come through the corkscrew full speed for the first time under racing conditions. Winter just still trying to close that gap down on Vasquez. In GT4, Elizondo having broken away from the rest of the field. Drain in tow. Eggy P3. It would be a first podium for Eggy this season, as I think he was one of the lucky few to make it through that lap 1 contact seemingly unscathed. But Vieira and Mikey, both drivers battling together, they do end up in front of Eggy on the grid, as Eggy goes wide at turn 9, rainy curve. That will concede the position to both Vieira and Mikey. Mikey also taking advantage of Vieira, getting a 2-for-1 deal there, as he is now ahead of Vieira. Vieira may try to close the door on that move, but Mikey has the advantage and goes around the outside. The KTM GT4s, not very much. I don't know the exact amount. If someone in chat would be able to help me with the horsepower number for the GT2s and GT4s. I want to say the GT2s are somewhere in the 600s, and the GT4s would be somewhere in the 300s. But they also don't really weigh anything. Car number 731, the GT2 of Viana, around at turn 11 on the pit straight, dropping him back to the very back of the pack in GT2. As the Mikey had made it past all of those drivers before, now down a position, or down many positions, as he goes wide at turn 3. Unfortunate for Mikey, a driver that we have seen finish on the podium many times in this series so far. Unfortunate for him. Winter now past Vasquez. I think Vasquez may have made a mistake. He's got some damage on that car. Actually, some pretty severe damage. I don't know if there maybe was contact with Winter or not. I don't see any damage on Winter's car. It looks like it may have been a clean pass and just a mistake from Vasquez, but now Vasquez with damage concedes the lead to Winter, and now potentially under attack from Horner if Vasquez has enough damage to hinder the pace of that car. Winter looks to run away with this one if Vasquez and Horner end up battling quite a bit, but Winter still has to have the most important battle, and that is the battle with the car and the track, just to keep it together, bring it home in one piece. Elizondo still in the lead in GT4 with Drain in tow. They have broken away from the rest of the field by quite a bit. Vieira now in P3, and Vieira, this would be his first pole position if he can bring it home in this place. Bird up into P4, a little bit of damage on that car, but does not seem to be enough to hinder the pace too much, as he is now chasing down Vieira. We'll have to keep up with that battle. McDonough going past Harris at the kink. I think Harris may have gotten a little bit wide. Breakfast also moving into this battle, moving into the picture as they head down the corkscrew towards Rainy Curve. The field seems to have spread out as Horner now looking to get this move done on Vasquez for P2. Vasquez has the fastest lap, but it does not seem that he has the fastest car right now, as Horner looking to get this move done down into the Andretti hairpin, setting up wide. He will not be able to go around the outside, but may be able to set up a cutback. But Vasquez closing that door, and Horner will have to wait once more, but the longer they wait, Winter down into P3. I guess he made a mistake. I don't see any damage on that car, but he must have just gone off wide. And now Vasquez back up into the lead. Winter has the pace, but Winter just making the mistakes. Like I said earlier, just needing to win that battle of the car and the track, and seems that he has lost that battle for now. Still on the podium with Craters now in tow, potentially under attack from him. Just needs to bring it home in one piece, keep it together as good as he can. Elizondo still your leader in GT4 with Drain in tow. Drain getting a little bit squirrely through turn 3. Vieira now under attack from Bird, and this battle is bringing in the GT4s of Eggy and Norman. Eggy maybe had a look to the inside at turn 2, but turn 3 will not happen there. Vieira now leading this field for the final spot on the podium. Bird eyeing the inside, maybe wanting to have a look for the move. Not close enough, but Vieira goes deep into turn 5, and that will open the door slightly for Bird. He can see the other side, but he does not have the ability to step through yet. But now it may come, as they are headed up towards the hill, towards the corkscrew, side by side. Two cars don't fit, but they will see if they can try. Bird to the inside at the corkscrew. Vieira going around the outside, forcing Bird to concede to the inside. Vieira clattering over the curb on the inside. Now it looked like he may be at a disadvantage to Bird, but Bird was not able to get around. Vieira still holding on to this position with a couple laps left. Norman wide, and Norman is around. Eggy also around, nearly going into the pit lane. Contact between those two in the braking zone, and they will have to let the field cycle through in order to rejoin the track. Eggy was in a much better position, but Norman now having to let the rest of the field cycle through. Car number 9 off track at the corkscrew. That is Ditto. I don't see him there yet. Now he goes through. Wilson and Miller here in battle, as we have just under, or right at, a minute and a half left in this race. Wilson and Miller Wilson, one of our newcomers in this series, driving that pink KTM GT4. Horner now looking to go around the outside of Vasquez, goes very, very deep into the corner, will try to get a better exit than Vasquez, nearly runs into the back of him, all over the rear bumper. Is it enough for the move? As Horner tries to get that car positioned to the inside, the longer that these drivers battle, the closer Winter will be able to get into this battle. I don't know if this is going to be the last lap of the race. I do not think so. Vasquez defensive to Horner into turn 5. Vasquez on the inside, forcing Horner to hang around the outside, slowing up both of those drivers, and Winter is now part of this battle. As Vasquez and Horner come through, they will head up the hill towards the corkscrew. Horner trying to get on the inside of Vasquez at the corkscrew, will not happen there. Winter now ever so much closer in this battle, setting up nice and wide to the outside. Vasquez will fall victim to Horner here nearly as Horner goes around the outside at turn 10. Winter now looking for a move past Vasquez. Horner up ahead, and this may be the end of the race right here. This is your entire podium in one shot. Horner gets a poor exit of the corner. Vasquez pulls to the inside. It's a photo finish for the podium, as it's Horner, Vasquez, Winter, your top 3, all within a 1/10 and a half of a second. Elizondo now heading up towards the corkscrew, all on his own with Drain in tow. Vieira still in battle with Bird. Bird trying to close down on Vieira here as they head towards the corkscrew one final time here in race 1. Down into the corkscrew, Vieira still ahead. It needs to be aces for him through the corkscrew. Bird getting a good exit. Bird is all over the rear. It may have to come down to a dive bomb at turn 11 as Vieira still fending off Bird. Norman and Eggy got into a little bit of contact between each other. I don't think Bird will be close enough for the move, but he can try and just get a better exit than Vieira, but I think Vieira has enough of an advantage for it not to matter. Bird will be in the slipstream, but it will be Vieira bringing home his first race, or not first race, but first podium in this series. Elizondo, your winner in GT4, Drain P2, Vieira P3, getting onto the podium for the first time this season. And as the rest of the field cycles through, let's look at the results. In GT2, Horner, your winner, barely ahead of Vasquez. Winter P3 with the fastest lap. Craters P4. McDonough P5. Harris P6. Rowan P7. Breakfast P8. Darnell P9. Van Wyck P10. Viana P11. For the GT4s, Elizondo, your winner in GT4 Race 1. Drain P2. Vieira P3. First podium for him in this series. Bird P4. Wilson P5. A good finish for him, especially for the newcomer. Lindbergh P6. Mikey P7. Johnston, also a newcomer. Greyhouse, also a newcomer, finishing P8 and P9. Top 10 finishes for all of those drivers for the first time. Continuing on through the Race 1 results in GT4. Harrell P10, your pole sitter, ended up in P10, albeit in part to that contact at lap 1. Short P11, Atwell P12, Fernandez P13, Miller P14, Wagner P15, Norman P16, Caligari P17, Merkel P18, Morton P19, Ditto P20, and Eggy P21. It was carnage and chaos in Race 1, and I don't think that Race 2 will be any different, as Rowan once again being shown as the fan favorite. Still, thank you for those drivers tuning in on the YouTube chat. As we get ready to rack them and stack them one more time for another 10-minute sprint in Race 2. No pole sitter winning a race so far. It's looking a lot like the Watkins Glen race that we had at the very start of this season, the American leg of this circuit, or of this series, not really showing to be too friendly to those drivers in this KTM series. There is a lot of bad luck to go around as we line up for race 2 here. Vasquez back into the lead. Will Vasquez be able to finish in the lead this time? Your winner in race 1 came all the way from P6. And Winter, P3 was potentially the winner, potentially the one to take it home, was in the lead at one point, but a mistake has sent him back into P3. Starting where he finished in race 1, Winter will be in P3. Craters, P2, getting involved in a little bit of incident early on, ended up in P4, also looking for a podium in this race 2. Harrell looking to have a much better race 2 here than his race 1, involved in the early incident that essentially took him out of the fight for the lead. The same goes for Lindbergh, Drain, and Elizondo, your drivers that made it through that just fine. That they did breakfast, and I believe I got it on stream in race 1. With just over a minute before we get engines fired for race 2, I would like to say, if you guys wouldn't mind, you could try subscribing through either Twitch Prime or the paid subscription. It gets rid of all ads for you, and it helps out the stream a lot. If you appreciate or enjoy listening to the commentary for the TRC, the Racing Club League races, I would greatly appreciate it if you would support me in that way, and we will get continuing on here for race 2, 30 seconds before we are engines fired, and get ready to go on our formation lap for race 2. This time set earlier on in the day. The track will be a little bit warmer, will not be cooling off like we were in the previous race. It was not a long enough race for it to end up cooling the track off too much. But considering the conditions that we may be getting in race 3, as the 30-second call from race control gives the drivers the green light to start those engines, as you will start to hear those cars come to life. As I will get my replay cam set once more. And the field will be cycling through. Hopping back on with our leading driver of Vasquez, as he once again leads us on our formation lap. Big wheel spin off the line, loading up the RPMs and then dumping the clutch to get those rear tires to spin, overpowering what little traction control they may have on these cars. A lot of these drivers run these cars with no traction control. They do have the option to do that, and some say that it is faster. Some also run with TC1. Just depends on how safe they plan on being. So 10 a.m. here in Monterey, California, as we get started for race number 2. It's a much brighter setting than qualifying and race 1. May give a little bit more life in these drivers, as race 1 did not have the best start. The majority of the GT4 field got stacked up like bowling pins. I wonder who was the bowling ball. You may be able to figure that out if you join the TRC Discord, where you can check out the race chat post-race, where there will definitely be sharing clips, screenshots, and stream highlights in there. Go ahead and click that link in the Twitch chat if you would like to join the TRC Discord server. Gets you access to the USA races, EU races, time trials, and intercontinental races, as well as plenty of coaching, advice, general camaraderie, all good things to help you out with your sim racing journey, and it is all free. Plenty of coaching in there, plenty of setup help. As Vasquez goes around and makes contact with the wall, you would think we were in the race, but he pulls a George Russell and spins the car under safety car, and now has damage on the front of that car. Shouldn't be too much to hurt the car, but that is not going to help him when he has already had not a great start to these races tonight. Thank you for the cheer, Colleen. That is actually the first cheer that I have ever had, so thank you for being the first. As they are lined up once more to come through the final turn, as Vasquez once again leads the field to the line as they take their speed. 70 kilometers an hour is the limit as they head up the hill towards the start-finish line, where we are about to take green flag here in race number 2.
Green light.
And green, 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 we are racing once more here in the KTM Cannonball Series. Round 2, 3 wide once more from the drivers behind. Vasquez now getting a much better entry to turn 1 this time, or turn 2. Winter still making his way through ahead of Craters. And the GT4 field seems to be making it through much safer this time, learning from their mistakes previously as they cycle through much, much nicer. Not much in terms of lap 1 incidents, but car number 38, McDonough, as he's backwards into the GT4 field, making head-on contact with Short there and Miller by proxy, I believe. McDonough, I think, just maybe thought that he wasn't quite off the track yet, but McDonough, severe damage to that car, and I believe that may take him out of the race as he takes that car back to the pits. The race may come to an end very early on for McDonough there. Vasquez leading the field with Winter in tow down into the corkscrew for the first time. As the rest of the field comes through, Darnell goes around. Both Horner and Harris slam on the brakes and narrowly miss Darnell, turning left at a right-hander in front of them. As the GT4 field comes through, we have a little bit of yellow flags, but it seems like for the most part everybody is okay. Car number 79 of Caligari backwards at the chicane and cuts across the track in front of Short, but is okay. Vasquez leading the field down towards turn 1. Much better this time. Still has that damage from the incident that he had on the formation lap, spinning the car through the corkscrew and making contact with the wall. Harris and Breakfast with a little bit of a scrap here. And in the GT4 field, Elizondo now up in the lead. Harrell once more getting pushed back into the back of the field. Elizondo, still your pole sitter with Drain and Mikey in tow. These three drivers seem to be breaking away from the field slightly. Back up with the GT2s. Vasquez has broken away just over a second between him and Winter. Winter under attack from Craters as they come through the corkscrew. Down the hill, very, very technical section. Winter setting up nice and wide to carry a lot more speed than Jack, and that gap does grow slightly. Winter showing that he has the pace, setting the fastest lap in the previous race. Trying to close that gap to Craters, but Craters in the slipstream will not be able to let him just get away that easy. Coming through to start lap 2, already a third of the way through this race, as car number 99 of Wagner goes around at the corkscrew and will settle back into the field further down than he was. Elizondo still your leader. Actually, I say Elizondo still your leader, but I think Elizondo may have gotten a poor exit of the final turn. Drain your leader, Mikey, P2. Bird, P3. Rowan following behind the leading pack here or I say leading pack, this is the mid pack here, as the leaders have broken away. Winter and Craters in battle up towards into the corkscrew here one more time. Craters very late on the brakes, trying to close that gap on Craters. On Winter will not happen just yet. Rowan following Breakfast behind into the corkscrew. Rowan nearly goes around, but a great save by Rowan keeps that car pointed straight, but it will put him at a pace disadvantage and will allow Darnell to close that gap. Viana going around at the corkscrew. He's got to get out of the way of the track, though, as the GT4 leaders are coming through just behind. And now Viana will be swallowed up by the GT4 field. It's Drain and Mikey all in their lonesome at the front of the GT4 field. Bird trying to make his way towards those leaders, but not close enough yet. Vasquez still broken away from Winter. Craters in tow, trying to close that gap on Winter. Not making much progress just yet. Horner, the snake in the grass, waiting for a mistake, waiting to pounce. As Viana, the GT2 cycling through the GT4 field, will put Drain at a slight disadvantage. And now Mikey, all over Drain's rear bumper, will try to see if he can make a move here on Drain. In these cars, that move will come from a better corner exit, trying to get a better speed. Car number 31 in GT4, Morton, off track at turn 9. I believe it was either Miller or Merkel off at turn 2 that time when those yellow flags got thrown. Car number 45 of Lindbergh also off track at the exit of 4. And the GT4 leaders, as Mikey very deep into the corkscrew, Bird close behind, but Norman all over the rear bumper of Bird, and Elizondo, the previous race winner, looking to pounce on any opportunity that he may get. Car number 14 of Vieira around, getting the first podium, or his first podium of the series in race 1 tonight, finishing very far down the order at the end of this race. Vasquez still broken away from the podium fight of Winter and Craters. Horner with a gap between them, leading the mid-pack. Harris, Darnell, and Rowan comprising the mid-pack, but there is a group of 4 GT4s, 5 GT4s, all in battle here. It's like a MX5 Cup race, as we have Johnston, Outwell, Wilson, and Merkel, also a small group of 4 battling. The GT4 seem to have found their groups in terms of pace, and it's like an MX5 Cup race. They are racing very, very close to each other the entire time. Van Wyck wide at turn 7 before they get to the corkscrew of turn 8. Rowan around nearly at turn 11, just before turn 11. Drain, Mikey, Bird, Norman, as Norman gets a little awkward on the exit of the corkscrew. This is going to be the battle of the race. Drain trying to hold on to this lead with Mikey just behind. Mikey dips 2 tires into the sand. That's not going to help him try to close the gap to Drain, as Bird, Norman, and Elizondo, all 3 fighting for position. Bird, the final spot on the podium. This is going to be good for points for him if he can finish here. It will be 2 laps left for the GT4s, with the Norman and Elizondo in tow. These 3 drivers fighting for the last spot on the podium. In GT2, Winter still ahead of Craters. Vasquez has found his rhythm, still up into the lead. And Horner following through with Harris in tow. Harris trying to chase down Horner and take P4 away. Drain, still your leader with Mikey in tow, but Bird, Norman, and Elizondo, the 3-way battle for the podium. Bird going to the inside, holding the middle of the track. Norman goes to the inside of Elizondo, but Norman will go deep, and that may open the door for Elizondo. Bird goes very deep through 4.5, and that opens the door for Elizondo to get a through goes Hamilton moment there and get 2-4-1, but Elizondo 2 tires into the sand. That will open the door for Norman, as Norman is looking to maybe go around the outside of Elizondo at the corkscrew. Elizondo forced to check up, go to the inside. Norman now side by side, and Bird is at the backside, the other side of this battle than where he was previously. These 3 drivers, 1 more lap to figure out who is going to finish on top. Winter now ahead of Craters, got that move done with a little bit of help from traffic up into P2. Will not be close enough for the win unless a mistake comes from Vasquez, as this should be the final lap. There is potential for 1 more lap, but Winter now ahead of Craters. Drain and Mikey still running together, but Norman and Elizondo, the fight for P3, the fight for the final spot on the podium. Norman is now the one with the advantage in that fight. Norman ahead of Elizondo, ahead of Bird. It's still anyone's battle on who takes the final spot on the podium. The same thing with the fight a little bit further back for these positions here. Johnston looking to go on the inside of Atwell. Johnston braking a little early, but Atwell goes late, goes deep, and Atwell will fall to the back of this field. Now Johnston will fall victim to Merkel as Merkel moves ahead. Wilson has the run on the inside, and Wilson looks to slot ahead. Once again, this battle for the final time. Elizondo ahead of Norman, ahead of Bird. Norman goes to force the move. Elizondo is deep into the corkscrew. Bird tries to go to the inside. Bird and Norman make contact. Bird puts Norman around and slows down to give the position back. That all just gives Elizondo the position. Drain and Mikey side by side nearly as they come through turn 11. Mikey will slot behind Drain, but Drain will take home P1 in race 1. Actually, not yet. It's not over yet. The timer has stopped, but they have 1 more lap. It's 1 more lap to go. Vasquez will bring home the checkered flag here on this lap. Winter in P2. Horner up into P3 now, as I think Craters had an incident earlier on in the lap. Craters now down to P7. Drain ahead of Mikey. Mikey has made a mistake at turn 2, the Andretti hairpin. I think he just went deep, and now with Drain all the way up ahead, Elizondo in P2, and now Harrell and Bird in the battle for P3. Norman with damage, I think, made a mistake, and now Norman is down. Vasquez takes the win in race 1. Winter P2. Horner P3 taking home the podium. Drain looking to take home the win in GT4. Elizondo down to P2. Harrell looking to take home P3, fighting his way back up through the order. I think knifing his way through some mistakes. Norman and Bird ended up in that contact with each other, and Bird conceded the position back to Norman. That opened the door for Drain and Elizondo, as Drain comes to take the checkered flag in race 2. Elizondo will take home P2, and Harrell, by a stroke of luck, starts in P1, finds himself after some very bad luck back in P3 on the podium. And Harrell takes home P3. Norman, Eggy, Wilson, Johnston, Atwell, Bird, after conceding that position to Norman and letting him go by, drops further back down in the order. Mikey, after, I believe, a spin of his own at turn 2, drops him down the order. And as the rest of the field comes through, Van Wyck getting involved in some early incidents, and McDonough as well. McDonough with that very early collision. And that is a P8 for Rowan, P6 for Breakfast, as we get ready to stack them one more time for race 3. the 40-minute race, the big one, the one that everyone has been waiting for. Thank you all for tuning in as we get ready to go for race 3. 40 minutes. We start to see some tire wear. I'm not sure what time this race is going to be starting. I've heard some of the drivers say that we may be racing at night, but I am not sure just yet. Let me go ahead and verify that. In race 3, it is going to start at 7 p.m., so we will go into the night here in race 3 as the sun will be setting, the lights will be on, and we will continue on with the events of the night. Vasquez finally taking home a win as a pole sitter. It was not looking good for the pole sitters so far tonight, as the finishing order: Vasquez, P1 Winter, P2 Horner, P3 Harris, P4 Darnell, P5 Breakfast, P6 Craters, P7 Rowan, P8 Viana, P9 Van Wyck, P10, and McDonough parking that car early, finishing P11. In GT4, Drain, P1 Elizondo, P2 Harrell, P3 Greathouse, P4 with a great finish for Greathouse. Norman, P5 Eggy, P6 Wilson, P7 another great finish. Johnston, P8. The new names definitely showing that they did not come to be forgotten. Atwell, P9 Bird, P10 Wagner, P11 Mikey, P12 Miller, P13 Fernandez, P14 Merkel, P15 Ditto, P16 Caligari, P17 Short, P18 Morton, P19 Vieira, P20 and Lindbergh, P21. In the 2 races that we have done so far tonight, it has been very easy to just let race 1 go, let race 2 go. They're just 10-minute sprints, but here we are in the big one of the night, race 3. It is the longest race of the night, and it is the race that we have all been waiting for. Now, if you are involved in one of those race-ending incidents, you are not just putting it in the pit lane, you are probably putting it in the trailer and going home. You do not want to be putting it in the trailer on lap 1, and it is going to be conservation from these drivers. Yes, there is a battle, but you cannot win the race on the first lap. You can't win it on the second lap. You can't win it on the 10th lap. You can only win it on the last lap. So we will see who will be the driver remaining at the front of the field at the end of that last lap, as the field will decide who gets to take home the glory and who gets to go home crying. There has been a lot of crying tonight, but now it is time to wipe those tears. If you didn't finish where you thought you deserved to, now is your time to prove that you did deserve to finish there. It is your time to put that car in the spot that you think you deserve it to be in. If you want to win tonight, now is your chance to win. It's double points, double the mojo, as we have 25 seconds left before we get rolling here, before we get engines fired to then get rolling for the formation lap. Once again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and hope you enjoy the commentary so far. Hope you enjoy the broadcast. And once again, thank you to those drivers, or not drivers, those viewers tuning in on YouTube. Again, if you have the ability and have not yet, I do have a YouTube channel, and we're trying to get 500 subscribers over there. And if you wouldn't mind, I would greatly appreciate it if you considered subscribing to the YouTube channel. It is under the same name as the Twitch channel. As we are engines fired now, 5 seconds away from being rolling, and we'll see if we get another big smoke show from Vasquez as he comes off the line, brings those RPMs up high and dumps the clutch. And that is exactly what we get. Another smoke show from Vasquez. Now, Vasquez needs to make sure that he doesn't get any formation lap damage, as that is a little silly. Something that is completely unnecessary, but did happen and seemed to not have hindered his pace in the previous race, race 2. But in race 3, 4 times as long, double the points, but a lot more mistakes to be made. The time to make those mistakes was race 1 and race 2. Figure out what mistakes are going to be made. We saw in race 2 that they figured out where they needed to be in terms of their race start. We had a much cleaner race start in race 2. Will it be the same in race 3? A much longer race. Stakes are higher, but there's more time to get that move done. There is much less reason to be in such a hurry. Will there be another big incident to bring us a surprise winner? But at the same time, a big incident that would shake up the field does give the time for those drivers with the faster pace to claw their way back up the order. So if you're in the back, do you hope that there is an incident and that you're able to move up and maybe snake your way through the chaos, or do you hope to slice your way through the field as methodically as you can? It just depends on what kind of pace you have and what kind of risk you are willing to take. Vasquez, the 777 on that car, is showing it's got a little bit of lucky power, much luckier than it was in the previous round at Brands Hatch. And as they get the 2x2 call, we come to the line one more time as they form up and take their speed limit of 70 kilometers an hour, as Vasquez will bring the field to turn 11 and through turn 11 onto the pit straight. Just one more corner. We are just a few seconds away from taking green flag for the third and final time tonight. The action is only heating up. The sun is going down. But will we see chaos? Who will take home the checkered flag as we are about to go green, green, green for race 3 of the KTM Cannonball Series? Car number 31 gets a drive-through penalty for a starting infringement. Vasquez much cleaner on the start, getting ahead. Winter still making his way up into P2, but there's big contact in the GT2 field behind. Craters gets sent off the track into the wall. And Craters has to pull along to the side and allow the rest of the field to go through. Unfortunate for one of the TRC admins. I'm not sure what kind of damage he's got. He's backwards, and I'm sure that car stalled. Doesn't seem to be too much damage, but that puts him at the very back. Now he has a lot of work to do. He's got to cycle through the entire GT4 field, as Vasquez and Winter now looking to break away from the field once more. Winter has the pace, but needs to stop making the mistakes. He had the pace, he had the lead at one point, but a mistake dropped him out of the lead and back into a podium position. Will Winter be able to take home a win tonight? McDonough looking to make a move on Horner very early, side by side. McDonough has the move done, but Horner with a lunge into turn 10 takes the position back for a short moment. McDonough has the advantage as they come through turn 11. As Horner gets sent wide onto the gravel, Harris will now have the speed and be on the attack. Car number 19 of Merkel off track at turn 10. In the GT4 field, Harrell finally getting a clean start, able to drive his race at the front. Could be looking for his first win tonight. He got the pole position for his first time in this series, but has not been able to bring home the win. Lindbergh also coming through. Lindbergh was P2, but has not been able to bring home a good position, a good finishing result. Drain and Elizondo, previous race winners, both looking to get back up into their spot. As there's a slow GT2, the rest of the field needs to make sure that they see that, as Viana gets wide. Ooh, hop on board with Vaiana. I think everyone else seems to have made it through nicely. Car number 913 of Craters making his way past car number 79, one of the GT4 cars, as Vasquez has once again broken away from Winter. These drivers have the pace, but they have not shown perfection on the track. It will be crucial to their race finish to stay as clean as possible. Horner now into P3, leading a small pack of GT2s. Rowan up into P6 for now, but I think he is going up into P5. Breakfast in tow as the order updates. Rowan P5, Breakfast P6. Good position for Rowan so far. Same for Breakfast just behind. Car number 38 of McDonough wide. I think that car may have shut off on him, having some trouble restarting that car, and he will cycle back through the field. Harrell, having broken away from the rest of the GT4 field, some of the GT2s are cycling their way through those GT2s that were caught in those early incidents. One of those being Darnell, as Darnell is looking to go around Lindbergh as he narrowly misses Lindbergh. Lindbergh with some snap oversteer gets that car turned around and is now forced to let the rest of the field cycle through. Harrell almost all on his lonesome with Elizondo 5 seconds behind, or 3 seconds behind. Eggy P3 with Drain, Bird. Vaiana, the GT2, looking to make his way through. Could potentially disrupt this GT4 battle for the podium positions, as Bird is looking to use this straightaway to get past these GT4s. Drain and Bird looking to do battle as they come down the line. Vaiana loses it at the corkscrew. Bird will try and make it past Drain at the corkscrew. Will not happen there. Very tight field as it is extremely dense on that track map with GT4s. A cleaner start means that there is a more dense field, as the GT2s still trying to fight for their positions on track. Drain leading a long line of GT4s as we see Greathouse looking to make a move on Mikey. Mikey diving to the outside. Vieira, Fernandez, Atwell, and Greathouse all in a battle here for position. Greathouse looking to make a move on Vieira, but will be under attack from Fernandez, and Fernandez will take that position away from Greathouse. Greathouse, one of the newcomers, showing some good pace and having some good finishes so far, some good points finishes in this series. Craters moving his way through the GT4 field. He's about halfway through, but still a long way to go. Very hard to make his way through this field without having any contact. The GT2s seem to have opened up their gaps nicely. Vasquez still has Winter in tow, and Winter showing the fastest pace so far, holding the fastest lap. As Rowan and Breakfast still P5 and P6. Almost no one behind him and all of the room in front to move forward. Car number 914 of Eggy up into P4 as Bird and Drain, I think, got involved in a little incident. Now Eggy into the podium position. Wagner also moving forward as the GT2 of Vaiana looks to make his way through the GT4 field, just having some trouble getting past that traffic. Johnston leading a small pack of cars here. Vieira, Norman, Short, and Wilson, as the field is starting to spread out a little bit. Car number 915 potentially under attack from Harris. It looks like Harris is moving forward in terms of position. Horner with a little bit of damage on the front of that car. I think that was with that contact with Craters early on in the race. Car number 713 of Wilson with Lindbergh in tow, looking to push forward on Short. Wilson, one of our newcomers in this series, with a pink car, I believe one of the only pink cars on track. as they head up the hill. Norman and Vieira in battle. Norman getting past Vieira as Norman is looking to now move forward on Johnston. As Vaiana in the GT2 still trying to snake his way through traffic. Short, Wilson, and Lindbergh forming a small 3-car battle for position here. As Wilson with a little bit of connection issue. Looked like he went wide, but did not. Side by side down into turn 11, but will concede the position to Lindbergh. Will have a good run, but it will not be enough to hold on to the position. Lindbergh now looking to get a move on Short here. And as they head down into the Andretti hairpin, Lindbergh setting up wide. Maybe try it around the outside, but will not work, will never work. Now closes the door on Wilson and will hold on to that position for now. Winter still cruising just behind Vasquez, the gap falling ever so slightly. It is staying right around the 1 second to 1.5 second range. This is going to be a battle of attrition here, as both of these drivers have winning pace, but it will be perfection that puts either driver on the podium. Harrell all on his lonesome with Elizondo a few seconds behind. Eggy now with Bird and Drain closing up that gap. Eggy may be under attack by Drain and Bird. Down into turn 11. Bird getting a much better exit than Eggy, or much better entry. Compromised exit slightly, but will be in the slipstream and will look to move past Eggy very shortly, but will not be close enough for the move yet. Short and Johnston moving through the turn 11 section there. Looked like they were much closer to each other than they were. For the GT2 lead, the gap is holding steady. It may have closed slightly, as these leading GT2s are inching ever so much closer to the GT4 traffic, and that will be the biggest factor and one of the biggest changes between the GT2 class that we did not see very much of in the race prior. These drivers will now have to fight between each other, but will have to navigate their way through the entire GT4 field. As car number 14, I want to say that is Vieira, off track, up ahead of Vasquez. Vasquez now chasing down Miller and Ditto. Now, crucial for Vasquez here is navigating through traffic. Some of these drivers ahead in GT4 may have not raced around traffic before, may not be used to traffic, may not be used to the track. A ton of variables that could make or break Vasquez's race here. He needs to be decisive in his moves past traffic. He needs to make himself known. The drivers will be getting blue flags, but Ditto goes around at the corkscrew ahead of Vasquez and will have to let the rest of the field cycle through. Winter getting caught out by that traffic slightly. The gap growing, but more traffic ahead. Vasquez with Vieira ahead now. Winter still in tow, but the gap has grown. I think it's doubled right at 2 seconds. And it's over 2 seconds, 2.5, as Vasquez still with a lot more work to do in terms of traffic. Now looking to make his way past Johnston. It is awareness from both sides, and it is that awareness or lack thereof that could, either by his own volition or someone else's, cost him the lead here as Norman is off track, but Norman holding the brakes, staying where he is, allowing the field to cycle through before he decides to rejoin the track. Car number 79 of Caligari off at the corkscrew, with Eggy still in P3, holding on to that podium as the drivers behind fighting too hard to get that position away. Bird and Drain both fighting to be the driver to try and move forward and take the position away from Eggy, but as of right now, they are both just keeping themselves locked down to P4. Neither driver allowing the other to get a severe advantage, as Drain went for a look to turn 2, but thought better of it, backs out and slots just behind. Over a quarter of the way through this race, and the order has been set for now, but that does not guarantee any sort of finishing order. Rowan, P5 still, but P6 has been taken from Darnell, moving Breakfast down a position. Breakfast now will be under attack from Van Wyck, who is giving chase. Could be the battle for the position as they head down to turn 2 on this lap. Harold, your leader in GT4, making his way past some lap traffic now with Elizondo still following just behind. Eggy still in P3 in GT4 with GT2 traffic opening up that gap to the battling Drain and Bird behind. As Fernandez goes around at the corkscrew, was up into P6 or P7, I believe, but that is just going to drop him down. He has found a gap before the very end of the field, and that will allow him to rejoin and not take as much of a disadvantage. Vieira ahead of Darnell and Norman. Vieira and Norman, both drivers that showed good pace tonight, just not having luck on their side. They do have more time to try and get that position back. Darnell also with no luck on his side, sweeping the field last week at Brands Hatch. Unable to replicate those results. It could be a curse of the North American wing, as so far both North American tracks not showing good results for Darnell. Vasquez still ahead of Winter, as they have a little bit more work of traffic ahead. Car number 914 of Eggy now leading a growing pack of GT4s. Eggy, Bird, Drain down into the corkscrew. Bird and Drain have now closed that gap back up once more. But as you look further behind, Wagner, Mikey, Atwell, Greathouse, drivers that we have seen up towards the front rows in the positions anywhere from P3 to P6. Any of those drivers are in a position to take advantage of a mistake from any of these three drivers fighting for the podium here. GT2 field has cycled through, and they have set the positions that they are going to hold for now. Caligari off at the corkscrew. Vasquez still with more traffic to make it through. Almost to the lead of the GT4 field, but just taking it very easy, understanding that this being too eager, making his way past the GT4 traffic, or trying to go for a move that is not quite open yet, or trying to make a move on a car that does not recognize his presence there, could spell disaster for his race, as the podium battle of Eggy, Bird, and Drain, as Drain is now ahead of Bird. Drain now trying to press the issue on Eggy as they head through the kink and up the hill into the corkscrew. Vasquez, the GT2 leader, trying to get past Bird, will open up the gap between Drain and Bird as he goes to make room for his car there. Bird now getting slowed up a little bit more as Winter has closed this gap up a lot. Traffic becoming a big factor in this battle, as Winter is now just behind Vasquez, and as they come behind the battling Drain and Eggy, will there be enough space for both of them, as Vasquez forced to the inside, Winter able to get a little bit wider exit, use a more optimal racing line. Vasquez now flashing that traffic out of the way as Vasquez threads the needle between those GT4s. Winter forced to go to the inside of Eggy. Eggy just trying to hold on to his race as well, Both drivers very deep on each other into the braking zone of turn 2. Winter now much closer behind Vasquez than he was, and there is a big open gap here. This is the opportunity for Vasquez to try and run away from Winter. Winter now less than 3/4 of a second behind Vasquez. Vasquez has taken that fastest lap back, but the battle for the lead in GT2 is still definitely on as they head through turn 5 up the hill towards the crucial kink of turn 6. This has been the make or break corner for all of these drivers tonight, and they will both make it through this time. As someone goes off, it is Eggy. The GT4 podium battle. Eggy is off the track. Eggy drops out of that battle. Elizondo still in P2, but Bird now the driver to take advantage of that, as Drain, I think, was also involved in a little bit of contact there. Horner giving a little bit of a nudge to Harris as Horner gets that move done through the corkscrew. Just taking advantage of a little bit of a mistake from Harris, but now a mistake from Horner opens the door back up for Harris, as both drivers having to check out for traffic side by side down into turn 11. Now Horner using traffic to his advantage, places Drain as a blocking move in front of Harris. Now Horner gets that position back. Back onto the GT2 lead as they have a little bit more traffic ahead. Vasquez still trying to run away from Winter, has opened that gap up slightly, but Winter is not out of the battle yet. Harris and Horner still doing battle. Horner will have the inside advantage into turn 3 as they are now making their way through more GT4 traffic as well. Horner diving to the inside, trying to get past Mikey, placing Mikey in a position that will hinder Harris's pace, as Harris also pushes his way through Mikey. Now Horner doing the same to Wagner, trying to position these GT4 cars in a place where Harris will be hindered by their paces. They cannot take the corners quite as fast as the GT2s, but a lot of good cooperation from the GT2s is not helping Horner too much. He has grown that gap slightly, as Harris will try desperately to get ahead of the GT4 of Bird before they get to the corkscrew, and he will do so. Now, clean air with these two drivers once more, but Horner using that traffic to gain a slight advantage, a bigger advantage than he had before they hit the traffic. Winter making a mistake at the exit of turn 11, drops that gap much further back down to, I want to say, right at 4 seconds. Winter still in P2 by a comfortable margin, with no one in any position to attack him behind. This is the battle for the final spots on the podium in GT2, as Horner still trying to defend against Harris. This will be the battle to watch for now, as just behind there is still a battle in GT4 for the final spot on the podium. It has switched from Eggy and Drain to now Wagner, Mikey, and Bird. Drain following behind this battle, but is not in any sort of position right now to take advantage of it. We are halfway through the race here, as Harrell, still your leader, your pulse leader, leading the race for the first time tonight after a stroke of bad luck between races 1 and 2 with some turn 1, lap 1 incidents. Now, so far, having the luck on his side for race 3, getting the double points as long as he can bring it home. He's got a nice 5-second gap to P2 in GT2 of Elizondo. And then P3 undecided. Wagner leads Mikey, leads Bird as they head down towards the corkscrew. This is the battle for the GT4 podium as Wagner goes around and knocks himself out of that fight. I don't know if maybe there was a nudge from Mikey if he got some help, but Wagner out of that fight. Now Mikey into P3 with Bird in tow. How has Wagner fared through that incident? He has dropped back. Did not drop too far back, but he is behind Drain in terms of pace. He had to wait and allow the field to go through, but Wagner, I cannot imagine very happy with that move there. Now, the GT2s have made their way past. They have reached the crossover point, passed over the GT4 leader, and that will be the only time that will happen tonight, as long as Harold doesn't make another mistake, or doesn't make a mistake tonight. Horner still ahead of Harris. Mikey Still ahead of Bird. Rowan, the GT2, looking to make his way through. Rowan still in P5. Darnell not able to make his way past Rowan just yet. Darnell P7 as Rowan gets past Mikey as they come into turn 5. Car number 79, Caligari, off the track once again. And this is the battle for the final spot on the podium in GT4. Mikey and Bird. Bird trying to run down Mikey, but it is also crucial that these drivers do not make any mistakes. It has not been moves or faster pace that has taken drivers either out of this race or out of contention for the spots that they so desire. It has been mistakes from the drivers on their own. As Harold comes down the hill towards turn 2, the Andretti hairpin. Elizondo still following close behind, a 5-second gap, but he is still there, still within sight of Harold nonetheless. And Horner and Harris still trying to make their way through a small pocket of traffic ahead that they still will need to negotiate around. Harris in a bad spot with 2 GT4s essentially blocking the track in front of him, nowhere to go as Elizondo goes around short. There is all sorts of lap traffic interaction here. Vasquez, your GT2 leader, looking to make his way past Vaiana and lap a car in his own class. Vaiana gets blue flags. And Winter, now over 5 seconds behind, now will start to maybe pray for a mistake from Vasquez to put Winter back in the fight for the lead here. He is comfortably on the podium, but he knows that he has the pace to potentially win here. Will he get the opportunity? There's 15 minutes to find out. We'll see if the pendulum swings back in the favor of Winter before the end of the race. Horner, P3, the gap to Harris has grown. Rowan, P5, making his way around to GT4 of Norman. Breakfast back into P6 as Darnell has dropped down. I think a mistake from Darnell has granted Breakfast that position back. Craters, after that turn 1 incident and some damage, has just been running in the back of the GT2 field in P9. Vaiana in P10 with some damage, a couple spins in this race. Not very good luck for Vaiana, as he is a driver that we have seen up towards the front row and on the podium in the Maserati series. In GT4, to run through the order, Harold is your leader with Elizondo in P2, Bird in P3, Drain P4 trying to fight his way back up onto that fight for the podium. Mikey P5, Wagner P6, still a good position after that spin at the corkscrew earlier on. Atwell P7, Wilson P8, a good position for Wilson right now, especially in his first race with TRC here. Lindbergh, I believe, P9. Greathouse P10 looking to move forward, but a large gap between him and the next car. He has also got some damage on that car, but does not seem to be hindering the car's drivability too much. P11 Miller, P12 Fernandez, P13 Ditto, P14 Vieira, P15 Merkel, P16 Johnston, P17 Norman, P18 Short, pitting to fix some damage, I believe, and coming back out of the track to continue racing, albeit laps down, but still to finish the race. Caligari P19 with damage on that car, and Martin in P20 in GT4 rounding out the back of the field. Vasquez still growing that gap to Winter, as Winter has some traffic to make his way through, as I believe my replay has messed itself up again, as we will enter the field once more to get that replay set back in the proper position. And we will move back to garage view, as I think I need to get the replay set back in the proper way. and we should be good now. Back into the proper view that we were in before. Thank you very much. Vasquez, still your leader, all on his lonesome, and that gap is growing ever so slightly to Winter, now up around 7.5 seconds. Vasquez just showing us that perfect race that he can run, and will continue on in this race. 12 minutes left here. A handful of laps to go. The race is not over yet. Plenty of mistakes to happen. Vasquez does not look to be in a position to lose. It is his race to lose for sure. There is no traffic ahead of him for quite some time. Back on with GT4. Harrell still your leader. Elizondo in P2 with Rowan looking to make his way past. And Bird now on his lonesome with a 2-second gap behind to Drain. Bird one mistake away from losing out on a podium to Drain. It just needs to keep his race clean as Darnell cutting back across Bird to take that position away. And hopping down here with Wilson and Johnston, two drivers on different paces, as I believe Johnston is down a lap from Wilson, but Wilson looking to move back ahead. And there's a car off the track, car number 99 of Wagner, off once again with a hole in the track to get that car back onto the pace, as there's another car off. Darnell 420 once again. Bird in P3. The gap now closing to Drain. The gap was 2 seconds, now just over a second, as this fight for the podium in GT4 is starting to heat up a little bit. The gap holding steady at 1.1 seconds. Drain moving past some traffic. Van Wyck in the GT2 nearly losing it coming down into turn 2, the Andretti hairpin. As the sun is setting, the track is cooling off. The lights are on the cars, and some parts of the track are in complete shade. Not quite darkness, but they are much darker than they were before, as the sun is setting here in California. One of those West Coast sunsets that I would love to see in person myself here at Laguna Seca. Drain now closing in on Bird by quite a bit. That gap has dropped a lot. I don't know if maybe Bird is suffering some tire degradation here. The pace seems to have dropped off from Bird, as Drain is now closing up on this gap here, as I believe we haven't done one in a while. But let's go on board with Drain here, as he is going to try and run down the GT4 of Bird. We'll see if he has the pace here to get that position away. There is the GT2 of Van Wyck just behind, but riding on with Drain as he is attempting to close this gap up. Van Wyck, the GT2, tucking to the inside to try and get that position, or get the track position away from Drain, does so. And now that gap staying right at 1 second. Bird still within view of Drain here, as Bird going very early on the brakes, but Drain also going very deep. Both forces counteracting each other, but the traffic coming across as Van Wyck goes across, exit stage left, as now Drain with the pace advantage over Bird could potentially be looking for this move here very shortly, but gets a lot of the sausage curve on the inside, resetting that progress, dropping him back down a couple tenths. Now with more work to do. Craters and Van Wyck in the GT2 still following close behind, and now Drain needs to let this traffic in, or let this traffic through at as opportune of a position as possible, opting to do so at the kink so he has a clean run up the hill. Now Bird almost being set off of his line, but allowing Drain to close up the gap into the corkscrew, but going too deep into the corkscrew himself, and resetting that work to get that position back from Bird. Not able to do it so far from Drain. As Drain hops into the pit lane, maybe a strategy call here. Maybe trying to get some tires and see if he can run a faster lap. If so, it is a very brave call from Drain. Diving into the pit lane from P4 in class. We'll see if it pays off. Maybe seeing some severe tire degradation. Could be a so-called big brain strategy call from Drain. Could be a race ender. Just have to wait and find out. The gap between Vasquez and Winter, albeit 6 seconds, has dropped a couple seconds since we last checked in on this battle. Harris still back in P3, making his way ahead of Horner, and that gap right at 5 seconds. As Drain comes out of the pit lane, now in P6 in class, just dropped a couple positions, but will have a pace advantage. And I don't know if maybe he is trying to maybe take advantage of better pace with the better tires, or hope for a mistake from the drivers ahead. But those tires now cold as Drain also, or almost completely, gets rid of any sort of advantage that he would have had by taking that strategy call. We'll see if it'll pay out for Drain here. Harrell, still your leader in GT4 with Elizondo in P2. Harrell with some traffic to make his way through. Merkel bowing out of the way, allowing the leading Harrell to take the track position. Bird, now, after being given that podium position by Drain, where does Drain end up? He's halfway around the track. Does Drain maybe think that there is enough time to get around all the way back around the track with a better pace? Maybe he noticed some severe pace fall off. I don't know. Maybe the call, if it was going to come, was too late. But we'll have to see if it pays dividends. Bird, now the final spot on the GT4 podium. Mikey, just a corner behind, lurking, as you see Bird there in the background. Mikey maybe in position to get another podium here tonight, or get a podium here tonight. Not sure if he's gotten one so far tonight, but Mikey in position to take advantage of any sort of mistake that could be made by Bird ahead. Vasquez, your GT2 leader, making his way past some GT4 podium traffic. Will he have enough time to catch the GT4 leaders? I don't think so, as we are right at 3 or 4 laps left in this race. As Viana and Darnell, in similar colors, are potentially in a battle here. Darnell, a driver just not with very good luck in this race so far. Car number 19 of Merkel getting a drive-through penalty for track limit, or drive-through penalty for speeding, I think, as he is just now coming out of pit lane. He's got a stop-and-go penalty for speeding in pit lane, I think, after serving a drive-through penalty. Unfortunate for Merkel there. And car number 99 of Wagner off at the kink with some damage on that car. I don't know how much damage he's got, but if it has greatly changed or damaged the drivability of that car, he may be putting that car on the trailer even this late in the race if he has that dreaded meatball flag. Atwell past Greathouse now. Greathouse, one of our newcomers, I believe teammates with Short, as they are sporting similar liveries. Harrell, still your leader in GT4. Elizondo, quite a few seconds back in P2. And Bird in P3. Mikey, much, much closer than before, but maybe being caught out trying to get past Fernandez here. 2 tires in the sand will slow the car down slightly, but it's not going to be enough to say take him out of the battle. But with just over, or just under 3 minutes left in this battle, give or take 3 laps left to go in this race. The battle for the GT4 podium is on, as Bird much closer, or Mikey much closer to Bird than previous, less than 2 seconds when that gap was right at 4 seconds. Mikey now with his sights set, maybe saving some tires as a little bit of a on-track strategy call. Now looks to put on the burners, and now much closer to Bird than he was previously. Harrell coming through Rainy Curve. 10 seconds between him and Elizondo. The race is not over yet. The mistakes can still be made. Does Bird have the pace to hold off the GT4 of Mikey? As once again, I need to get my replay camera fixed. There we go. As Bird comes through the corkscrew, Mikey in tow. The gap right at 2 seconds now, as I believe Merkel gets that stop and go penalty cleared on his car. Car numbers 99 and 47 of Miller and Wagner in battle here at the Andretti hairpin. Miller going on the inside of Wagner. Wagner still with damage in that car. Both of those cars with damage. Not looking as good as they did at the start of the race. Wagner getting that position back, but Miller carrying more speed. Don't dive to the inside for that move, because there is a GT2 there, and that is the GT2 leader of Vasquez. Now getting very hairy, as these drivers are now going to be battling for positions more aggressively in front of Vasquez. The last thing Vasquez needs is a hip check from one of these cars, threading the needle between Merkel and Wagner. Those drivers getting out of the way for Vasquez, as Vasquez continues moving through the field. Bird and Mikey with just a couple laps left. I think this may potentially be the last lap of the race. 20 seconds left. I don't think Vasquez has enough time to start another lap, and this looks to be the final lap of the race, as there is a car backwards. Morton nearly making contact with Vasquez. Does that car change any of the battles behind? I think Morton may have gotten that car off the track, but as the clock comes down to 0, Vasquez will take the checkered flag here in race 3. Winter coming through turn 11 will take P2 in race 3. Harris looks to take P3 in race 3. And as the GT4s come to the line, Harrell still ahead, as Bird will finish ahead of Mikey. Bird taking the final spot on the podium. Harrell and Elizondo still on the track to finish their race. Doesn't seem to be too much for battles the rest of the way down the track. Horner finishes his race, but Darnell is continuing on, as Darnell goes deep, and I think he may have put that car hard into the wall, maybe out of frustration. Breakfast coming home to take a P6, Rowan P5, Breakfast P6, Craters P7, Darnell finishing down in P10, as Craters comes across the line in P7. In GT2, your winner, Vasquez, with the fastest lap as well. Winter taking P2, Harris taking P3. In GT4, your podium, Harrell ahead of Elizondo, ahead of Bird. Mikey just not close enough, less than a second between them. But good finishes overall for those drivers. Good points. Thank you for tuning in. This will bring an end to the festivities of the night. 3 races, a qualifying session, and a little bit of frustration from Darnell. Maybe the curse of the American leg of the series could have some merit to it, as so far at both Watkins Glen and Laguna Seca, Darnell, a driver that we know has the pace, as he swept the entire series last week at Brands Hatch, Just very unfortunate finishes in this race and these races tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. It has been great racing. Once again, the chaos, there has been no shortage of it. The battles were still all over the track, especially in race 3, the entire duration of the race. Although the players at stake did change, the intensity of the battles did not. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. I hope you all have a good night. I will see you on Sunday for the GT3, GT2 series, I believe, and I will definitely see you next Wednesday for the next round of the KTM Kannonball series. I believe we are at Alton Park next week. I am not sure. I'll have to double check that, but the best way to figure out where we are is to tune into this stream. Tuning in. Thank you for following if you have. You should all have a good night. Thank you to the drivers